It's good to be king. It's good to be king. Because then you can pardon anyone the way you want to. Find out all this and more in Self-Evident Podcast.
That's
Welcome
perfect
to Self-Evident Podcast.
Perfect placement.
You got Massey, you got Mike. We are here. Guys, if you've not, again, I know we do this every podcast. It's kind of housekeeping now at this point. But we have a $75,000 goal coming up with our year-end newsletter. You want to be a part of that. If you want to be a part of that, I should say, with your business or yourself, your personal finances, it is a tax-deductible write-off for you, but it's also a help to us. If you guys want to donate, you guys can go to theselfevidenttruth.com and see our newsletter, what you're giving to. We got a new discipleship mentoring program we're doing, a bunch of different things like that. Also, too, just to let you know, just to let you in the inner circle a little bit, a lot of our touring has increased, which it's hard because we have to order product before we go, and we try to keep the product stock low because we don't have a lot of room. But we also try to keep it stocked, so when we come back, if we run out, we got stuff to send. So we got some kind of bigger orders we got to fulfill, too. If you guys want to help with all that stuff, you guys can on the website. So please do that, theselfevidenttruth.com. And you can also find out tons more about what we're doing, because we got a lot of cool stuff. Miguel over here with his Forge Ministries kicking butt. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys can go on theforge.org. That's great stuff. That's,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Just doing all the things. So it's good to be king. If you didn't notice, last night was kind of a frenzy. A lot of people were posting about it. We figured we'd cover it today. President Joe Biden has pardoned his son from all illegal activity. Notice I'm using these words very, very good. All illegal activity that Hunter had committed. And just before all the sentence and stuff, it's like, let's just pardon the guy. Now, here's what's weird. I don't know if you got the video of that stuff with Catherine Jean-Pierre when she said...
I don't.
I posted it on my Instagram account that you have Corinne Jean-Pierre, or whatever her name is, the White House press secretary. She was asked over and over and over again if Joe Biden would pardon his son. And she said, nope, we've already talked about this. Nope.
No.
It's all lies. These guys are legit liars. It's like the week of Christmas, she goes, I'm just really excited that like meat is down 6%. And it's like... After inflation jacked it up 40%.
Right, exactly. Thanks, a net 34% positive.
Yeah.
That's much better than 40.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just lies and lies and lies. Yeah. And I pray that if you're a lefty, Democrat, whatever, you would start to see that your side is also very corrupt. I know you point out a lot of the corruption on the Republican side, and there is.
If we get it.
There is corruption on that side. But y'all, this is, even for you guys, I hope you're understanding. You guys can't justify Kamala. You can't justify this. You can't justify these things. I don't care how you spin it. And we actually just read an article where it's a fatherly love to pardon. The office of president is not about you being a father. That's not what it's about. It's about executing the law.
And the fact that your argument is a father is forgiving his son's indiscretions shows you want a king. You want a king.
That's
you
exactly
think
right.
Biden is above the law.
That's right.
As opposed to, well, a father can't do anything about this because guess what? That's the court system that's handling him, not you. So you just proved you want a king. And to your point, Massey, like Joe Biden had also said, no, never going to happen. Joe and I both respect the judicial system, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, bullpucky.
She told NBC News in June. And of course, Biden himself said, I will not pardon him. Said this in June. However, according to NBC News, Biden has been discussing a pardon with his closest aides since Hunter's June conviction. So in other words, they were lying to you the entire time. No pardons. We're going to pardon him.
I just want you guys to see this. I found it. Sean Foy posted this. It says, Joe Biden tweeted he X'd. On 5/31 of 24, no one is above the law. So he responds with, except your son. That's great, dude. So listen, we want to talk about this because there are It's such a weird thing to talk about because we talk about spiritual things, and like we were talking about, there's judgment first must begin in the house of God. There's another thing happening with this Daystar ministry thing going on. That's kind of once we figure out more information, we'll kind of talk about it. But man, there's like all this stuff being exposed. Now, I don't know if Daystar is guilty of this. It's just there's an accusation, so that's why we're not covering a lot of the stuff right now. But there's stuff crossing our radar. But this is so stupid because this is
So
what
blatant.
we've been talking about this for a while. This is what happens when you want a king. This is what happens when we're not holding our government officials accountable to their oath anymore. We're looking at their personalities and just he's so compassionate. You know what I mean? And what he does is for the good of the people. It's like, no, that is not the office of president. His job is only to execute the law. If you read Article 2. And obviously contract alliances and things, but it's really about upholding the laws. And if your son breaks them, all the more reason you need to, like, seriously, it's all the more reason you need to execute the law to show everybody no one's above the law, including my own kid. Now, we'll let the court system do what they do. You know, let the judges handle it and sort it out. But you pardoning your kid like this, knowing that there's a lot of corruption. No, let me just say this. If you already knew he wasn't guilty and being mistreated, wouldn't the judges have handled this and not you?
Right?
If there was nothing against your son,
you could have appealed it and
yeah,
things would be great. But no, you came in and decided the pardon proves the guilt.
that's seriously. Let's be honest here. You only pardon those who have been guilty.
Yes. No.
I think that's the end of the podcast, Mike.
That's it. There we go, guys. There
Go
you
ahead.
are. No, but you're right. Like, how much more do you say about this? And to your point, Biden, when he writes his whole pardon thing, in a statement, he said Hunter was treated differently by his own Justice Department, adding that the charges only came about after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. We're pulling that card. It's political witch hunt by your own DOJ.
Right.
Who then he was found guilty by the courts, but the courts are out to get you as well. So sad for you. And of course, Hunter Biden, the shining exemplar of character and moral upstanding, needs the pardon, which is actually more expansive of a pardon than Ford gave Nixon. So
According to, what is it, 11 years worth of
that's, dude, it's 11-year blanket pardon of Hunter. 11-year, in other words, anything in the past 11 years, let's just wipe that under the rug.
Full and unconditional. Talk about abuse of power, bro. Talk about abuse of power.
Yes. And I think people are upset, but I don't think people are upset enough at the egregious nature of this. Because, of course, this pardon basically goes back to right before Burisma. So all the Burisma stuff that Trump got impeached for even asking about, all that Burisma stuff gets wiped under the table. And I want to read this timeline that we've got at the top. So in 2013-14, United States orchestrated a coup that toppled Ukraine democratically elected government, right? And it did. It really did.
Right.
And led to the ousting of Yanukovych. I think that's how you say it. So the events that followed after,
Man, y'all
the
people
coup,
out there need to, y'all Ukraine folk, y'all got to fix your names. So fix a country, fix your names. I can't read it.
Russia probably wouldn't be fighting you if y'all were Smith and Cooper.
Yeah. Come on, get it right.
Yeah, come on, guys. So April 16th, 2014. This is after the coup, mind you. VP Biden meets with Devon Archer at the White House. April 21st, VP Biden visits Ukraine and becomes U.S. policy face. April 22nd, Archer joins Burisma's board. April 28th, British officials seized $23 million from Burisma's owner. May 12th, Hunter Biden joins Burisma's board and both were paid millions. In 2019, an investigation revealed that the Obama administration knew Hunter Biden's position on Burisma's board was problematic and interfered with U.S. policy in Ukraine. And mind you, Biden is on video. And if you want to debate this, please. He is on video flat out bragging that he got the prosecutor in Ukraine fired because he held, what was it, $6 billion worth of aid over their heads and basically said, you got 6 hours before I leave. If this guy's not fired, we're not giving you the money. And oh, lo and behold, the prosecutor who was going after Burisma and looking into them gets canned. That looks kind of suspicious.
Gosh.
Pardon.
Yeah, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Starting in 2014, crackhead.
Thank you, Zero Hedge.
That white powdery substance, we don't even know where it came from.
I love that it became very reasonable that it was either Hunter Biden or Kamala Harris who left the cocaine in the White House. Like,
those are the only two conclusions.
Right. The fact that we had more than one conclusion in the Democrat administration. It was like, well, it could have been Hunter or it could have been Kamala. Don't know.
Because the old man ain't taking none of that mess. He can't even figure out how to do it. He's probably putting it on his eggs that morning. Sorry. Yeah, it's like it's salt. It's pretty good.
All of a sudden all of a sudden he's running laps around the front lawn. I feel great.
Oh, man.
It's the best day ever.
Yeah, Hunter Biden was paid $1 million a year, but listen to this, by Ukraine gas giant Burisma because he was an energy expert.
The guy couldn't speak the language. He's never been in the energy field. No experience whatsoever, but he's an expert.
He's an expert in energy. And it was really a way for the Ukrainian oligarchs to buy influence from Joe Biden. This is also the first year of his retroactive pardon by his father.
Oh, go figure.
So now there's no investigation that can be done. Once he's been pardoned, there's nothing they can look into.
Double jeopardy.
He's exonerated. I will say this, though. There's nothing covered that shall not be revealed.
Amen.
You just know a criminal. The more, if you get pardoned this way without true repentance, something else will happen. Actually, detectives and cops depend on this. They know if an act is committed and someone got away with it. Lawyers know. Prosecutors know. It's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be shocked if something else down the road gets exposed. Does this make sense?
And yeah, let's say we're hoping so. I
agree.
It's not a vengeance. Let me rephrase. It's not a bitter revenge-seeking aspect.
No.
It's we want to see justice done. Like,
yeah.
To not see people who are completely corrupt get away with it for a lifetime.
What is it? Amos, is that what he says? Let righteousness run down like water and justice like a mighty stream. Is it? It's.
I don't remember.
I think it's Amos, but I think it's let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. And so it's really justice is what corrects a nation. Mm-hmm. When you have true justice that comes against wickedness, that comes against the inhumanity of a nation. I mean, dude, guys, and if this isn't where your prayer life is, because I have to be careful. My prayer life is here too, but I need it more concentrated. The fact that kids are being told it's okay to explore sexuality, that right there, that alone should show you the vulnerability of how we've left ourselves no longer the caretakers of our own children, but we've left them to an open prey. And if we cannot take care of our children, if kids are worse off in the womb than they are being alive to die, and I agree with that. I don't care if you like that or not. If we can do that, then we've left off what a society should be. Because if we can't protect the most vulnerable, then we're off here. You know what I mean? And I judgment comes swiftly to nations like this.
I like where you're headed, because if you take that big picture mentality on all of this, like, justice has been completely perverted.
Oh my gosh.
The widows, the orphans, the defenseless are being preyed upon and destroyed by the rich, the wealthy, those in power, those with influence. And you're watching a complete inversion of values and beliefs where good is now considered evil and evil is considered good. Bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter. And if you take that big picture view, it's like, man, we are in a complete mess. And especially when the justice system has been corrupt for a while, but it truly has just become a weapon used by somebody in power.
Exactly.
You know,
100%.
And a person, and this is a perfect culmination of this concept
Yep.
with Joe and Hunter, because Mr. President Biden just pardoned his son from a whole slew of stuff that he got found guilty on. And I'm not, and people are of course going to go, but Trump got found guilty on 34 felony counts. Tell me what the felonies were.
That's right. Nobody's ever been able to
Tell
say
me
it.
what the felonies were.
Because they can't.
No.
And now didn't the judge down in Georgia or whatever, the person who was bringing, didn't she just get removed from the case? A lot of these people are getting removed from cases.
And judges are dismissing some of these other cases, right? And judges who were like out to get him are removing these cases or dismissing these cases.
Not only that, the left was against Trump for using presidential pardon to right,
Yeah.
But now you're using your office and position to pardon your son. And I want to just read Leviticus
go for it.
19. It actually says, Leviticus 19:15, do not pervert justice, do not show partiality to the poor. Listen to that. Don't let them off the hook just because they're poor. If they broke the law, they broke the law.
Right.
He says this, don't show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. Why? Because societies are built on fairness. They're built on the judgment of fairness. It doesn't matter who you are. No one is above the law, including the king, including the president. Here's another one. Here's Proverbs 28. He says, when a man is partial to the poor, he is sinning, but he who is upright in his way honors him. He honors the Lord. Let's see. Habakkuk 1. Therefore the law is slacked and justice never goes forth, for the wicked surround the righteous. Therefore wrong judgment comes forth. It's because of wickedness that wrong judgment comes forth. This should show you right away what's really ruling up in this upper echelon of our American politics. And I'm talking about, they're supposed to be the lower rung of American politics. They're the federal government. That's all they do. The states have their own governments. We give them authority, so we're above them. And so when we're looking at the federal government, look at that, he's using his president. Biden is no one in the eyes of God more than me, more than you.
Right. He's a man doing a job.
That's exactly it.
In God's eyes. And he's going to stand. I think about this with these people that we tend to put on a pedestal and almost make them mythical. Trump's one, Biden's another, any of these people. And think about the fact that each and every one of them will stand alone before the Lord, metaphorically naked before the Lord, of now we're going to look at everything you did. We're going to weigh out your life. And dude, that's a scary concept, because with much responsibility, right?
Much is required, bro.
Much is required of you.
Especially if you're standing in the place or an office of judgment of law. Oh my gosh. The scales that will be put against you for determining what law is or isn't before the eyes of God. Ugh, buddy.
And you can't run from it. And we try every single way we can to run from consequence. And this is an exact example of it. This is a perfect example of pardon my son so that he doesn't have consequences for his actions. And we as humans, we gravitate towards, can I remove myself from responsibility or consequence? But you can't run from it when you're standing before the Lord.
Exactly.
And that is a very, very
100%
scary concept.
Super scary, dude. And I'll say too, I actually have an idea for the thumbnail of this. Pervert ed justice.
I like it.
Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
There's just perversion all the way at the top. Here's what I'll say though. Because perversion is at the top, that doesn't mean everyone's perverted. So a lot of the times a vineyard leaves, he comes back, the vineyard's gone, and he said it's because evil men came in and sowed tares, right? So what's been happening for years is these little positions we thought were unimportant, they just started installing themselves, like school boards, city councils, county councils, on the boards of big major corporations like Target, Disney, all these other places. They've inserted themselves and now push an agenda. But I don't believe they speak for the American people. I just think they're the heads of these companies. So they start pushing this perversion. And then we say our nation accepts. Actually, I disagree with that. First off, our current election just dictated that.
It proved a lot.
A lot of the Democrats aren't for a lot of this perversion either. A lot of them just didn't like Trump. So they voted against Trump. They weren't necessarily voting for Kamala or whatever her name is. Do you know that like 7 years ago, she didn't know her own name. She actually said it Kamala, not Kamala, or Kamala, not
She said
Kamala.
it Kamala.
She said it Kamala and not Kamala. So it's just anywho's, and that's bad tangent. But what I'm saying is, I'm seeing our nation respond in such a way that is retaliation against this wickedness.
Yes.
Even now that the left is going after Doge, the office of Doge, is pretty insane, right?
Yeah.
I think it's crazy because they're trying to stop. They can't do this legally. Are you saying that there was some kind of an amendment that created the Department of Education? Because if it's not illegal if they shut it down, it was a creation of their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So they can create it, but they can't get rid of it?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. So you're seeing a lot of this happen. You're like, okay, people are getting sick of the bull crap. So I look at the scriptures that we're using, and I'm saying, Lord, but this nation isn't fully on board with that. And our nation isn't set up in such a way where they're our leaders. They're actually our servants. So, Father, teach us that mindset again. Send us out there to teach this mindset. They're not our leaders. They're our servants. Does this make sense?
And they're wicked servants.
Exactly.
And look how Christ talks about wicked servants.
Ooh,
and
slothful.
Dude.
Wicked and slothful servant.
Ooh. That could preach.
Right,
man.
dude.
That
Right.
could
You
preach.
wicked and you slothful servant. And slothful people pervert justice. They don't have any discipline in their life. They do everything by their whims. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you look at this, and that's government.
Yeah.
They spend money excessively. They don't have anything holding to them. There's no accountability in their life. They're slothful.
I'm forcing a metaphor here, but this is kind of interesting. When you look at that parable and the servant who hid his talent, right? Let's put the government in the place of they are our servant, right? If we're the master coming back and the servant says, oh, well, I knew you were a hard man reaping where you didn't sow. You're a thief. Look how the government looks at you. You're a thief. You're taking what wasn't yours. Excuse me, you took what's mine and then you wasted it.
That's right.
You didn't even invest it to get some interest back. You buried it in a hole. You squandered it.
And not only that, you buried it in the ground saying there's treasure in the ground, pay me money on taxes so that but you got to trust me there's money in the ground.
Yeah,
like that's
pay
what
me,
they've
pay
done.
me, pay
Yeah,
me.
yeah, pay me. It's crazy.
It's kind of scary how well that analogy actually goes forward.
here's actually the scary part to me is we fell for it.
We did.
We fell for one of the greatest, to me, Ponzi schemes in global history of how government can pervert justice, pervert money. Pardon the way we do, skirt the law. Dude, I would be the first one to tell you if Trump is guilty of anything, dude, we'll talk about it. I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I'm good. Like we don't have like a hierarchy here or preference. I think what I'm saying is you're looking at a nation who our American people fell for it, that they're actually leading something when they're actually called to maintain something. And they're not even maintaining it.
Everybody says, be wary when somebody says, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. But how much we actually gave into that. We gave into the government coming to us and saying, hey, let me help you with that. Or, hey, let me do that for you. And then it was off to the races. And now all of a sudden we've allowed the government so much authority over us. And then we sit by and we go, and now you're pardoning your son who has been convicted of federal gun charges and federal tax evasion and all that. Mind you, if I had those charges, I'm not getting a pardon. I'm getting thrown in prison for a long time.
Right.
But he can get off.
Right. I mean, let's kind of go with this here. In recent months, Biden had said he wouldn't pardon Hunter. He said, I will not pardon him, Biden said in June. However, according to NBC News, Biden has been discussing a pardon with his closest aide since Hunter's June conviction, adding that the decision was made at the time for the president to lie and say he wouldn't pardon him. And his White House secretary confirmed him saying not pardoning. And Jill Biden also said Hunter wouldn't receive a pardon. Jill actually said, Joe and I both respect the judicial system, and that's the bottom line. No, you don't. No, you don't. You never have. None of you have. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't care about the law. You care about you. And you know how I know that? By the fruit of your lives. Because you guys don't want anybody actually examining yourselves. That for the last 4 years, we've been saying Joe Biden is senile, and everybody was covering for him. And then all of a sudden, when he does a bad performance, I can't believe this guy's being run for president. It's very selfish of Joe to do, isn't it? He should step down. You punks last month were just saying he was he's sharp. He's sharp. Every one of them said he's sharp. He's quick. He's good. I was in a situation room with him, Kamala said. He's great. He was giving us all information. All of a sudden, does bad at because look, he's been doing bad for 4 years.
And
right?
And those of us who are pointing it out, even during his run 4 years ago, we're like, this guy isn't okay. He's not all there. No, to make it.
Yeah. You're actually, I can't believe you guys. Look at him. And so I think to round it all off, I don't believe these people respect the law. They don't care about America. They don't. They don't care.
No.
And if there's any kind of caring about America in these guys, it's an emotional thing. It's not like a principled thing. I love the freedom I got. I love that I can sell a book. I love that, all those things like that. That's what they'll do. They'll increase their profits because of their position. That's what they do. It's what always happens. And so you look at this and you go, okay, since they don't care, this is why all the more you have to care. That's why we as the people are the last buck stops here when it comes to interposition. Because if they won't do it, if our county governments won't do it, state governments, if our city governments won't do it, then we have to do it. If our church doesn't do it, we have to do it. We're the citizens. If my pastor doesn't want to do it, that's fine, which I'm not saying our pastor doesn't. He does. They're good. But we have a job to do. That's why it's so important for us to know the law, to know the Constitution, to know these things. So we can hold people accountable. That's actually our job, not theirs. Their job is to execute what we give them empowerment to do. We put them in office.
I think what we're going through as a society is we're starting to get rid of the idea of reliance. Like we're waking up to,
I agree.
We're way too reliant on things. Right. And that's why I love what you're saying, because, and I just hit this moniker in my head. It's like destroy reliance. Like you have to actually destroy reliance, right? Because we're relying on these institutions or these establishments or these pillars, and they're not doing the job.
Yeah, destroy fleshly alliances or reliances. I think spiritual reliance is always a thing.
Yeah,
just not to be confused, right? Because someone will,
what about Jesus? About the Spirit?
It's like, no, we're saying fleshly reliances, and I think that's a great shirt.
That was DFR, just, bro. I was thinking dope. That.
Yeah, destroy fleshly reliances, and I think again, our job here is to show you it's not about Joe. We all know the guy's crooked, corrupt. He's just perverse. And I do think that the thumbnail should say that. But it's more on they're perverse. That's why we can't be. They're destroying judgment. That's why we can't do that. They're a respecter of persons. That's why we can't do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our job as citizens is to be completely opposite from what God says to be. I'm sorry, then God says not to be. So when they're not doing something, we have to do that. We've got to be the light of it. Does that make sense?
And that gets into Christ's parable, and to round this out. Christ's parable of the log and the speck. Everybody quotes it, but nobody quotes the end of it.
Yeah, nobody
right?
follows through.
No. They're like, see, log in your own eye, pull that out.
People don't like following through with that.
No. So to follow all the way through, what Christ is saying is, look, before you remove that speck from your brother's eye, aka don't be a hypocrite, pull the log out of your own eye, then you can see clearly. You've got clear conscience. You can see things clearly. You can see the big picture to help your brother by pulling the speck out of his eye.
Right.
Christ doesn't say, well, don't bother because you're a hypocrite. He's saying, no, get yourself right so that then you can do it without being a hypocrite. We have to do the same. We can't turn around if our lives are full of hypocrisy and evil and wickedness and perversion and all of that, and then suddenly point the finger at a guy like Joe Biden and say, well, he's pretty wicked. It doesn't work.
I love when you go on these tangents because you're right. There's something to you rounded it off. I don't want to add to it.
No, go for it.
But you're right. It's like we can. That's it. He just said it. It's up to us to do what we're called to do. And I believe this. I strongly believe this now. It's a whole new thing for me because I totally believe God can do anything he wants. I've always preached that. I've always preached that God does the impossible. I truly believe now in this kind of season, I believe God wants to individually show us he's willing to stand strong with those who stand strong for him. Do you understand? So there's a scripture in the Old Testament. I forget where it is. Forgive me, guys, because I'm usually on the ball with this stuff. He said that he wants to show himself strong on the behalf of those whose hearts are perfect towards him. That's what he's willing to do. Show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are perfect towards him. I think that's where we're at. And so we have to really put our mindset in, Lord, what is your judgment? What is your justice? What is your heart towards judgment and justice? And teach me how to be the one that weighs the balances, weighs the scales. There are times for mercy. That's great, because mercy rejoices over judgment. But there are so many other important times for judgment to happen or justice to happen in order to set others free, right?
The people cry out for justice.
Yeah, dude. They need to see perversion stopped. You don't put mercy on perversion unless there's repentance from perversion. And perverseness comes in many different forms. It doesn't mean lustful. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys got something out of this. And I almost wonder if we shouldn't be posting these notes too, like our sources, on some of these things. So guys, again, we see the corruption, we see the wickedness. Mike, you actually get us out. You do the whole thing.
So everybody's corrupt, everybody's wicked.
You
point
need
the finger. Y'all need Jesus, but be sure to be high and mighty and self-righteous. Mad about rounds it. No.
That about says it.
It says what we need to say. No.
You make the plea about the newsletter and stuff, bro. Like,
yeah. Check out our newsletter, please, by all means. And if you have not received it, go to theselfevidenttruth.com, or you can check out our Facey Space pages or Instagrammies, Insta hits, and the Tweeter twatters. And all of that
we have
stuff,
a large goal, and I kind of want you to talk about it.
What's very exciting is, like you said earlier, the amount of events that we have coming up this next year. The only issue is, hey, that requires more money. It requires a higher budget. And while these events, and it's not to say that these events aren't helping support us, but they're, like you said, T-shirts and we've got payroll and all of that, expenses. So by all means, like, pray about, hey, is this something the Lord's putting on your heart to give to?
Right.
And if it is, please, by all means, be faithful in that. And one of the things I always say whenever I'm doing a call for offering or whatever is I say, look, the Lord's going to take care of us. I have full faith that the Lord will take care of us and what we need and what he wants to give to us. My question to you is, are you going to be obedient to what he's put on your heart? And if it's not self-evident, but he's calling you to give to somebody else, you better be obedient to that.
Yep, totally.
So I care more about your faith and obedience in giving out what the Lord has given you than I do about, hey, you better write out a check to self-evident. God will take care of us.
That's actually both of us, bro. Like, we don't care about this that way. We genuinely do. If people support, it's like, thank you, man. It's dope. If you guys feel like you got to support someone else, great, do it.
Yeah, God bless you.
We've never really been about the views, the clicks, the likes. It's always been, let's get the message out. We're called to do the message. He's called to blow the name in the wind if he wants. So if you guys feel compelled, go for it, man. We would love your support. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, it's good fertile ground. We're going out and doing the stuff, and some places people can't do or don't want to do. Yeah. We'll go. So
yeah. So check out the newsletter. By all means, take on this end of the year hit. Help us out. We love you guys. We're so grateful for all of you, and we mean it. Like, we super are grateful for you. I always get excited for homeschool season, because that means getting to see families that we only get to see once a year, So we love you guys. We hope y'all have a great day, and we'll see you Friday.
Bye.